It is old news to most people that Indian Sonny was the rightful owner of Indian Bolio and that Bolio was stolen by Pat Patrick's partner named Lou Lewis, and Pat wound up with Bolio. Well, I was just doing some thinking about, what if Pat Patrick had never received the stolen Indian Bolio from Lou Lewis? Would line-bred Bolio dogs be a stronger force today than they are now? On the one hand, because Patrick was mostly a dog seller, the fact Patrick got a hold of Bolio, bred him a lot and sold all the pups, created the ability of the whole fancy profiting and benefiting from the prepotency of Indian Bolio. On the other hand, truth to tell, the more I look at pedigrees, the more I like the breedings of Indian Sonny's dogs better. For example, Bolio's most famous offspring in the hands of Patrick has to be Patrick's Red Baby. The thing about it is, Indian Sonny's best Bolio female, Champion Indian Bloomers, decimated Red Baby's sister, and everything she faced. Not to mention Patrick's Rick Rude, to which Patrick had ambitions of overtaking Jeep in production. Well, look at the stats in present times. Sure, Indian Bolio produced some great dogs for Patrick, like Champion Princess and her brother Chenlen, but I like the Corvino and Eli blood behind the Indian Sonny dogs better than I like the Claus blood from Patrick's. For one thing, the Eli blood is more powerful and can win in its pure form, while today's Claus dogs can't. For another, the Corvino blood Sonny used is just as game as the Claus dogs, but are built more rugged and durable. While, admittedly, it would be hard for any female to beat Red Baby's production record, it still doesn't change the fact that Indian Bloomers beat the mess out of Red Baby's sister. While, of course, this is not definitive, it gets you thinking. Moreover, while the amount of truly great dogs coming from Patrick's was astounding, once he received the stolen Bolio and bred the daylights out of him, the very fact that Patrick sold his Bolio dogs everywhere was as much a factor to their success as was their quality. So yes, most of the direct offspring of Bolio retained his prepotency, but so did Indian Sonny's line-bred Bolio dogs, as with Hook's Grand Champion Rowdy. In fact, Rowdy was bred to a daughter of Red Baby to produce Champion Red Dog, which is in the pedigree of Hollingsworth's Dolly. With the help of Yellow, this elevated the game through the elite level of the Mayday generation. Meanwhile, the same blood as Great Champion Rowdy, using only Indian Sonny's combinations, which are Bolio, Eli, Carver and Corvino, made champions and great champions left as it is, such as Jesse Rod's Great Champion Midnight. It is hard to rate one line over the other. Patrick's Bolio dogs with Claus and Tombstone have certainly been way more influential, but again that is because Patrick was selling his dogs all over the world while Sonny kept his private, selling only to a very select few individuals. Had Sonny been able to keep Indian Bolio his whole life and kept his Bolio Eli Corvino combinations rolling, they possibly could have stood the test of time better than Patrick's versions. It was mentioned that pure Claus dogs now lack bone and need help to be competitive, while pure Eli type dogs are capable of still making champion and grand champion as they are. Pure Corvino dogs are still durable as rhinos and survive any onslaught and go for hours. Anyone who is truly familiar with Patrick's bloodline knows that most of his purebred Bolio dogs have gone way of the Claus dogs, tiny, thin-boned and can't win. What if Patrick hadn't have received the stolen Indian Bolio? What if, instead, Indian Sonny would have kept his rightful ownership of Bolio, continued to breed Bolio to the best Eli females possible and the best Eli Corvino combinations and bred these daughters back to Bolio? Might these have been even better? Remember, what we call pure Bolio dogs are really pure Bolio Claus plus Bolio Tombstone combinations. But what if instead these were line-bred Bolio dogs with Eli Corvino combos, like the dog that demolished Red Baby's littermate sister? While no one can deny the historical contributions of Pat Patrick's thievery, combined with his disseminating Bolio dogs all over the world, the question remains, was that the best possible history for the Indian Bolio bloodline? Or was an even better history taken and not realized simply because Indian Sonny had better bred brood females to use than what Patrick had available? If the Claus dogs can't compete today in their pure form while the Eli dogs still can, and if the majority of the bloodline has basically deteriorated the way of their shared Claus ancestry, I know which I would rather continue with if I were given the choice. I also know for a fact that Ely Carver and Ely Bolio dogs tend to make it higher up the win column than pure claws and Bolio claws dogs do. It is a fact that can be seen both with the benefit of hindsight and with the ability to crunch the statistical data that we have in databases. Both versions have produced winners, both versions have produced champions and grand champions. However, when you look at the facts, you really start looking at the highest level possible. 7 times, 8 times, and 9+ times winners you will repeatedly find Bolio Ely or other Carver Ely combos. Not Bolio claws or Bolio tombstone combinations, with the exception of Buck, which had Zebo in there. Therefore, realizing that Ely and Ely Carver combinations are the most consistent ultra-high achievers, that are able to go beyond mere 5 wins, what would you do if you had to choose which way to breed Bolio as your own stud dog? To Sonny's Ely Carver females or Patrick's Claws females?